Good evening and welcome to Thai PBS World Tonight. COVID-19 is not over yet, but it has been discussed about the future after COVID-19, especially implications on economy and society. Thai PBS World Tonight, คุณเทพชัยยอง and me talk to Dr. Suthapa Amorviwat, founding CEO of SCB Abacus on this issue. So from now on, how do you see the role of technology in our daily life? Will we have to adapt more and use technology more? What's your vision in the future of Thailand?
Well, I certainly feel that we have to adapt to the fast pace of technology even before COVID hit. But in some way, it escalates the adoption. And it has been escalated adoption by the state as much as by the concern for healthcare. With the lockdown, a lot more companies will start to experiment, or in fact, they didn't have time to experiment. They have to adopt the technologies even before they felt ready. But this is without silver lining. As you can see, now employers realize that they can ask employees to work from home. They can even save office space. But also, the people with physical disabilities that prevent them from commute daily now would have a chance because it has been proven possible that they can work from home and still be a good contributor to the workplace.
We all know how devastating this pandemic has been on the world, right? And it's unfortunate that many people have died and have become sick. But I'm sure that there must be some positive side to this pandemic. So for you, what do you think is the most positive side to this outbreak?
Well, it's not yet over, and it's a very difficult question because it's as economists, we seem to gravitate towards the negative side of this devastating event that's unfold, and it's not the end of it. I doubt if we have seen the peak of the economic calamities that will be coming after that. But the one thing is very clear. These pandemics or any kind of crisis help highlight the problem or the loophole or an underlying issues that we could have solved before that, but we didn't have the time when the market is good to actually look closely at the efficiency of our operations. So this is the time to look back into all the steps that we could have improved and emerge from it. But when you talk about whether this pandemic will be different from other, the economic crisis will be different from other, it's really difficult to predict because if you look back at a lot of economic crises in modern history, in modern economics, they were not caused by widespread disease like that. Instead, it was physical or death crises. So this time is very different, and people are grapple to understand the impact because it's for the first time it hits nearly every country in the world all at once. One thing that's for sure, we will come off of this crisis with heightened public debts, the level of which we had not experienced before. So for rich countries, for developed countries, low interest rate with deflation will persist for a long time afterwards, but it will be manageable. But it will not be the case for less developed countries. So public debts will weaken the ability for the countries to manage their own economy. Then we'll see the rising fiscal deficits. So austerity will not and cannot return for a long time, and then we will see tax rise in response. The scary part is the government will no longer honor the old social contract, especially in terms of the social safety net, and they will be discarded and new one will be forced in violently. This will test the strength and the trust between the governments, the regime, and its citizens. So these are some of the major economic outlook that we see from the public side. On the private side, though, we certainly will see the rising private debt and also a surge in default. That would definitely weaken the monetary policy instruments to help solve the problem. after all this crisis is long after this crisis is over. And as you mentioned early on about the workforce, it will be under intense pressure as unemployment will remain high even after the pandemic. And this decline in employment will be concentrated in labor intensive industries. The case in point is the hospitality business. It's being a prime example because it cannot be done from home. It's currently filled with the young, women, and immigrants. So these marginalized groups will become even further more vulnerable after this crisis.
The issue of cyber hygiene is really crucial, Dr. Suthapa, especially at this juncture that the government has planned to launch Thailand Victory or Thai Chana application.
Right.
And the issue must be quite concerning in terms of big data and personal privacy. So what's your take on this issue and how should Thai people or what should Thai people be aware of?
I think we have seen many different models outside of Thailand. Examples as in China, Taiwan, South Korea. They have launched an early version of these applications, but they are in some way very invasive. Singapore decided on a different path. They launched their Trace Together much early on, but the adoption has been quite low. So end of the day, these systems cannot be effective. And I would not discussing about Thai Chana or Moshana specifically, but let me discuss in general trend what we have observed. So these systems cannot be effective if people do not trust them. And people will only trust them if it protects their privacy. So I would say the minimal requirement would be that the data is not kept in some kind of centralized repository. It needs to be kept on device only.
No, but what we heard today from the authorities' concerns was more about the application itself, but less on the assurance that the people's privacy would be protected. I think that would certainly raise an issue of trust among the people on this application.
Well, I think when they force people to use that in order to resume economic activity, they need to convince people.
Yeah.
That they need to educate people. When you force people to only use Thai language as official language, they need to teach Thai in school. And in some way, I hope that they do realize that they are forcing a lot of people who've never been on digital platform to be on digital platform. And therefore, they need to teach digitization. They need to teach privacy rights. They need to teach the cyber hygiene, etiquette on social media, on digital platform. And this needs to be done alongside the adoption of these technologies.
Seems there are a lot more to do to cope with COVID-19, especially in the age of post-COVID-19. That's all from Thai PBS World Tonight. Thank you very much for watching.